Yo, fuck the haters in your life. There are always going to be people who are going to be around you who are going to be toxic and negative. And the ideal situation is obviously to be able to cut those people out of your life. But oftentimes, many of us find ourselves in situations where we are just not able to do that. This is basically solely because the toxic person in your life is your family member, right? But I'm here to tell you, because I don't see enough of these types of videos, that you just gotta trust yourself. You just gotta find it within yourself to just go against what they think is stupid because they're short sighted and they're narrow minded, so they can't understand what you're trying to go for. So you just gotta trust yourself and do your own thing. If everybody always followed everybody else's advice, then humanity would never have made progress to the level at which we're at today. Of course, there are some areas which have not turned out so well in today's society, some things that have not turned out so well, but as a whole, I think it's hard to argue that humanity hasn't made a good amount of progress compared to the past. So, when Galileo was making his telescopes, when he was arguing that basically the Earth was not the center of the universe, which was contradictory to what people thought at the time. It was contradictory to what the whole society, particularly the church, was thinking at the time. And people didn't want him to spread this, what they considered to be an outlandish idea at the time. For us now, it's common sense, right? The Earth's not the center of the universe. But at the time, it was an outlandish idea, brand new. Nobody had ever considered it before. And they didn't want him to spread that idea, and he was under a lot of persecution and a lot of danger for spreading this type of idea, which is, I think, similar to some things that we're seeing today, like the Andrew Tate situation. Personally, I think that a lot of what he says makes sense, and then he's being persecuted with no evidence. In fact, there's a lot of evidence contrary to the position that he's in, right? Like, if you actually look at the evidence versus what some people are claiming, some people are saying, oh, it's proven he's a sex trafficker with no basis of evidence. Where's the evidence? It makes no sense. I don't know why these people can just accuse people and just prey on other people's downfall with no evidence or anything like this. But there are people like that in your life too, most likely. Not necessarily, but this video is like targeted people who have haters in their life. If the haters are your friends, then I would say just like cut them off. There's no point in hanging around with them unless once again it's some sort of unique situation, because nobody knows your situation better than you. When these people say you can't do this or you can't do that, what do they know? They are imposing their own limitations on you. What they're really saying when they're saying things like that is that they're not able to do it. They can't do it. And they don't want you to do it, because then it would prove how weak they are, because they're not living to their potential. That's why they're saying these things in the first place. If they were actively improving themselves and this sort of thing, they wouldn't be talking like that. They wouldn't be talking down on people's dreams and things like that. So, um, you have to understand that anybody who gives you any sort of criticism or advice, they don't know your life. They know some things about you from their perspective, and what they know about you might not even be true, if you get what I mean, because they don't necessarily know about you. They just think that they know things about you. And that's based on their observations at certain select moments in time. As humans, we basically make snap judgments about things very quickly. We are tending to have linear thinking. Basically, if we see B occurs and A occurred right before B, then we'll often just assume that A caused B, as one example, when really the situations are much more nuanced many, many times. Like, there's so many times, sorry that my vocabulary is pretty poor, but the idea is that there are many times that occur in reality, many situations that occur, that something may seem to cause something else because it simply occurred in the time frame before that. So A occurred first and then B occurred. So therefore many people conclude that A caused B. Okay, but what about the other factors like C, D, and E, and F, for example? And then so people are making judgments about you based on their perspective of you. Let's connect this to first impressions. Whenever you meet somebody for the first time, their first impression is one of their most lasting ideas about you, right? The first thing is the appearance. We make a judgment basically about the appearance. If, for example, if they look like somebody that you used to hate, then you'll probably have a big bias towards disliking them. But then, in addition to that first impression, that like physical appearance impression, then comes the first impression with regards to how they act and how they first act when they meet you, basically. So, how they first act when they meet you, or when you basically know about their existence, not necessarily you're even meeting them, just to make it a little broader, but you can just think about it as first impression when you just meet them and they just meet you. Basically, how the person talks, um, and how they act when you first meet them will make snap judgments about them and will distribute that judgment to the whole of their character, even though most likely, or in some situations, not necessarily the case. For example, if you just meet somebody and they take a selfish action, you're going to think that automatically they're a selfish person. We tend to think of the people in these 2D frames instead of 3D. So we'll extend that judgment towards their whole character and will ignore some other good parts of their character because we're biased that way. And that's basically most of the idea. What I would like to clarify a little bit more, even for myself too, is, oh yeah, by the way, leave a like and subscribe if you enjoy the video. I'll just throw that in there. It helps the algorithm, helps the channel. The other thing I would throw in there is that, yeah, basically, we often focus only on certain characteristics that people have, and then we'll only think about those characteristics and not even consider like the other factors that were in play at that point in time. For example, say somebody was selfish on a certain day. Well, we don't know what happened before they had acted selfish in that day. Maybe they had a poor sleep. Maybe they had just gotten in a huge argument with their spouse. Maybe their spouse had started a divorce proceeding or something like that. That could be influencing them. These are examples of things that could be influencing them that we have no idea. Maybe they had got a health condition, as just another example, and we have no idea, and we just assume that that is their baseline, because when we meet them we assume that's their baseline. That's basically where the whole crux of the problem comes into play, if you want to consider a problem. I'll just call it a phenomenon. That's where the main part of the phenomenon occurs. We just assume that when we first meet somebody, the first impression is their baseline, but we don't know what happened before that. And other people do the exact same assumptions about us. If we act rude towards somebody on a certain day, for example, but we had other things on our mind, we're like, man, I don't even care about this person. I don't even want to meet them. Like, I don't care about them. And then you kind of act rude and dismissive towards them. Yeah, of course that person's going to think, oh, this is just the rude and dismissive person, when they don't know that you have been on like 3 hours of sleep. Your whole baby was crying a lot last night. You've been overworked, overstressed. You've been put in 16-hour days, for example. Like, they don't know that. They're going to make these judgments about you. And it goes into other areas too. Now let's move past first impressions, but into long-term ideas of you. People don't like change. They hate it, especially change that challenges their beliefs and their worldview. So if somebody fat or out of shape sees you start going to the gym, for example, they might be saying things like, "Oh, what are you doing now? You're just spending all your time in the gym. You're wasting your time in the gym." Or like, "Oh, what? You're a health freak now?" Something like that. Just like making fun of you, making fun of you. And sure, you can make fun of them back too if you want. You can say like, "Shut up, you fat fuck," or something like that. I don't know. If it's your family member, probably like your mom or your dad, you probably can't do that without some repercussions. But yeah, the point is that people don't like to see change in other people, especially if it challenges their beliefs and worldview. So they're gonna always try to drag you down, like that analogy, crabs in a bucket. Whenever one crab starts to climb towards the top of the bucket, the other crabs grab his legs and pull him down. And it's interesting. With regards to this topic, humans are no smarter than crabs. That's pretty amazing. That gives some more credibility to Jordan Peterson's comparison of humans to lobsters, which already is a great comparison because when he was comparing humans and lobsters, he was talking about certain chemicals and how they relate to dominance versus submissive behaviors. Some people didn't understand; they were too narrow-minded to understand the relatedness between humans and lobsters with regards to that subject. So yeah, people are gonna try to drag you down, but you still have to do what you want to do if you're gonna live your life according to your terms, or if you're gonna be part of the majority who live a sad fucking life, but then they just delude themselves day after day. They tell themselves, "Oh, I'm just doing what I had to do. I'm just doing my duty. I'm sacrificing the pleasure of the now for my duty. My life is miserable because I'm doing the right thing." When in reality, the whole time, you could have been chasing your dreams. You could have been starting a business or whatever your dream is, and you could have been working on it. And you would have been happy regardless of whether it succeeds or whether it fails, because at the end of the day, you're happy when you're chasing what you can call your purpose, what you can call the things that you want to do in life. You're living according to freedom. You're not living by somebody else's rules. You're not living in slavery. Most people are living in slavery, honestly, because they're just working at a job that they hate to sustain a lifestyle that they don't like. And it's just a perpetual cycle. So the difference between that and somebody who's chasing their dream is that the person who's chasing their dream is doing what they want, while the other person is just existing, and then they're just chasing temporary dopamine hit after dopamine hit, and they think that some things are going to help them, like, "Oh, I'm going to get the perfect partner or whatever," when in reality you can look around at in 2023 at the Western world and you can see, like, geez, there are not that many people who are good partners. And if you're an average guy, why would they want to be with you? The ones who are still good partners, like the above average mates, why would they want to be with you if you are average? The average women here suck. They're promiscuous. They suck literally. So your marriage is basically extremely likely to fail. So get into a long-term partnership with somebody, into a marriage, often provides pleasure in the short term. It provides them that dopamine, but unfortunately, it ruins many men's lives. And on that note, on that somber note, I'm out. Peace.